Hi, I'm Kelly Studer, and I'm sitting down today to talk to one of my longtime friends, Christy Turlington. Christy and I met each other when we were just kids, living 3 doors down from each other in Danville, California. And I'm here to talk to her today about her career development, going from a top fashion model to an entrepreneur and a humanitarian, and how she made those transitions. So, Christy, thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with me today.
Thank you so much. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. So you had this tremendous success early on in your life, you know, as a teenager, probably before most other people have even thought about what to do with their lives. You were already off and running, and you were reaching amazing heights with your modeling career at a time when you decided to walk away from it and go back to school and get your college degree. And so I was just wondering if you could tell me a little bit about that decision.
Yeah, well, I didn't really think about that career as an option. In part because I was so young when I started doing it. I wasn't even in that place of like, what do I really want to be? So I guess once it kind of took on the success part of it, and that things just didn't seem to be slowing down, I started to really think about, what did I want to do, and I wanted to make the choices of when I left that profession, that it would be on my terms. And so at 25 is when I decided to do it. And it wasn't any one moment per se that got me to think of that as a time. I think it really was, gosh, it's going to just be harder to do from here on out, psychologically for me. So I applied to NYU and got accepted by the Gallatin School, which is an individualized study program there, and we have access to the entire school, which is awesome. It's a fantastic program, and I had the best experience ever in having made that commitment. I did hear a story once or twice of people who drove by me as I was walking down the street with my backpack and making a comment like, "Aw." And I was like, "Aw." That's exactly. I was like, what could be not okay with doing that?
So fast forward, I think it was in 2009, you were talking to the Huffington Post, and you made a comment that at 40 you felt like you were finally on the cusp of the career you always wanted. So what were you referring to? What did you mean by that?
Well, I think at the time I was talking about this maternal health space. I had gone back to school at Columbia and had made a documentary film about the subject of maternal mortality, and advocacy just felt like the right place for me. It felt like the time, the need was there, that I could be purposeful, that I had something to contribute in a meaningful way, and so I guess that's what I was talking about. But I started sort of doing advocacy a long time ago. I just, it took me a little while to figure out that this was the topic. This was the specific topic that I had a lot to say about and that needed my voice. So I think when all of those sort of things came together and gelled, that's when it felt like, okay, this is right. And it's so great to have that happen. But I also don't think of it as a career either, strangely. There's a lot more I've invested in it. So I guess it could be a career, but again, it's not like I make a living doing it. It's something that I do as service, and it's something that my other career allows me to do. So it's funny in that it's not a traditional definition, I don't think, of a career.
Well, it almost sounds like it's beyond that. It's a calling.
Yes, it is a calling.
Which is pretty exciting, because I don't think that everybody knows what their calling is, but we're all trying to figure it out, and maybe you've figured it out.
Well, and I think it's different for everyone, and it also can happen at different times. I knew very early on that I wanted to make a difference in the world, but figuring out how I would do that was hard. It's not something that I didn't think about really a lot throughout my first career, but I couldn't figure out how was where I was there gonna affect that. And I couldn't have known that, I don't think, 20 years ago, 10 years ago even. And it's great to be in a place where you prepare and you put out the intention of what you hope to achieve, and then at some point there's an opportunity, and all of those things can come together. But I think preparedness is something, and intention are two really important things.
So what about on the flip side? Would you be willing to share any self-doubts that you encounter and how you deal with those?
Sometimes there's groups that I'm in that are, I'm around a lot of academics, a lot of policymakers, and there have been times where I've felt like, wow, do I have enough knowledge to share? And then I realized that of course I do. I have a personal experience. I have education on this particular topic. And then I have my own personal field experience, even that the film provided for me, that allow me to talk about an issue in a unique way, and something that is resonating in a way that they can't always resonate with. So seeing that I have a different skill set and that my skill set has every business at the table with those other skills. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm seeing more of that generally, in that people know that in order to have true dialogue and to really elevate human issues, you need to have lots of different kind of stakeholders, and you need to invite participation and inclusion. And so that's something that's been a big part of my advocacy message, in inviting people that are not at all in this realm to, based on being a woman, based on being a human, based on being a mother or a sister or a friend, you have a right to be a part of this experience and this movement, and that we can't do it without everybody's participation. So really inviting inclusion as much as possible is important.
I think that's such a great point, because it sounds like you just keep checking back in with yourself and saying, wait a minute, now I do know this stuff. I can talk at the same level as these other people, and even maybe recognize what they bring to the table, and then you bring something special too, and they're equally interesting and important. So I think that's a good lesson for all of us to think about when we're thinking we don't have enough, or we are enough. So my last question is, there's this book that I found that I really liked, where women were giving advice to their younger selves, and I was wondering, what advice would you give to your 20-something self, knowing what you know now? I would give more sort of personal advice to my 20-something self about relationships and things like that than career, because I feel like whatever I did was the right thing to get to where I am. Mm-hmm. So I would say, I guess if it was that, I would say be patient, because maybe if anything, I was still kind of thinking like, how will I try to change the world? How will that happen? How will that present itself? Mm-hmm. And I guess I might say to myself now, it'll happen. If you keep that intention, and if that's truly what you want to do, it'll happen. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed it, and I learned a lot from you.
Thank you.
It was really a pleasure.
Thank you. For me too.